And not to be outdone by my last video where I used the word, pensions unexpectedly, CalPERS unexpectedly lost, $30 billion in the pension. You know how I always say that? It's always unexpectedly. When it happens and it's bad news, financial, unexpectedly. Unexpected loss, unexpected drop, unexpectedly. So not to be outdone by that, speaking of finance, doesn't get much more finance than banking, does it? Banks. Zero Hedge, right in the headline. Thank you, Zero Hedge. Appreciate that. Deutsche Bank, unexpectedly found to have massive capital gap, larger than its entire market cap. Listen, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs conference call. Can I borrow a couple dollars? Shore up some loose ends. You got my back? Oh, wait, what's that? I've got the largest derivatives holding than all the banks and their weapons of financial mass destruction you don't want any part of? Okay. Yeah, all right. But you guys have those too. Oh, I know. They're not as much as you. Oh, yeah, I know. I understand. All right, okay. All right. Yeah, okay, bye-bye. Oh, see you at the Bohemian Grove Club this year. Yeah, take care. All right, bye. After the ECB, European Central Bank, concluded its latest annual stress test, which, as expected, not unexpectedly, as expected, found no problems with Europe's largest banks, instead scapegoating Italy's well-known troubled banks in results that were widely discredited by the market. Yesterday, in an unexpected outcome, German Economic Research Institute, ZEW, found that Germany's largest bank, Deutsche Bank, had the highest potential capital shortfall, as much as $19 billion in a study of 51 European banks using U.S. Federal Reserve stress test methods. The capital gap is greater than Deutsche Bank's entire market cap. You know that opera song, which is named something Bocelli and Sarah Brightman? Time to say goodbye. Every time I read something about Deutsche Bank, it's always negative, especially lately. Oh my God. That song pops right into my head. Time to say goodbye. Using the Fed's approach, and thus far more credible approach than that proposed by the ECB, the 51 European banks showed a total capital shortfall of 123 billion euros, with the largest gaps at, you guessed it, Deutsche Bank, but there's some others, Societe Generale, 13 billion, and BNP Paribas, 10 billion. Quote, European banks lack sufficient capital to offset the losses expected in the case of another financial crisis, the ZEW said in a statement on Tuesday cited by Reuters. ZEW finance professor Sasha Stefan worked with New York University Stern School of Business and the University of Lausanne researchers to run stress tests used by the Fed in 2016 and the European Banking Authority in 2014 to compare capital needs and leverage. So as you can tell, well, hold on, the ECB, the European Central Bank, did this in 2014 with the same model, the same stress test. But in 2016, we don't want to use that same stress test. We're going to use a different stress test, and when we do the different stress test, everything looks good. Let me give you a perfect example of that. Let's see if I can give you the exact number. Federal Reserve unemployment figures change method 20 times. I'm going back off my memory here. That's not going to be it. I'll just tell you off of memory. The Federal Reserve says, I was looking, no wonder why I'm looking up unemployment. Wrong thing to look up. Inflation. Do we see inflation here? Nope, it's very modest. Nothing to see here. That's funny. You look at the cost of food and, the important stuff, it's expensive. There's some problems. There's inflation. And when you look back at the Federal Reserve, who gets this data, who's the one that says, well, we think if inflation's a little low, we might actually have to cause some inflation. I sit here and say, what do you mean cause it if it's already rampant in the areas that matter, food, etc. And you look at their models that say, well, here's what we look at to see what inflation is. And they've changed the model, and this is going back years ago when I first figured this out. So they may have already changed it some more. But since the 1980s, they had to change the model at least 20 different times. So in other words, we got a set of data. We're going to use this to determine if we have inflation. Look over. Nope, we don't. We're good to go. A year or two later, same model. It's not looking good. Change the model. Change the model. Looking good. All right, good deal. Next year, same model as we just did last year. Yeah, it's not looking good. Change the model. Change the model. It's looking good. That's what that is. So what they just said is we used the model the Federal Reserve uses in 2014, but in 2016 we're using a different set, and these sets make us look good. But when you run the other sets from 2014 and the ones the Federal Reserve uses, they're saying there's some major capital shortfalls. Isn't that amazing? While Société Générale and BNP have market capitalizations of 26 billion euros and 55 billion euros respectively, well above the study's theoretical capital gap, Deutsche Bank would find itself in trouble if the ZEW calculation is correct and it has a market capitalization of less than 17 billion, which is why it promptly disagreed with ZEW's calculation. Quote, there is an official EBA stress test that checked the capital backing against very tough and adverse conditions, and this showed there was no acute capital need at Deutsche Bank, the bank said in a statement in response to the study. Deutsche Bank showed a weaker reading in the EBA test than most of its peers, a sign that Germany's biggest lender still has far to go in a revamp it launched last year. Although the EBA gave the banking industry a broadly healthy prognosis in its stress test results published on July 29th, it said there was still some work to do. The EBA tests had no pass or fail mark, and many observers said they did not remove concerns over capital. This year's EBA stress test was not aimed at uncovering capital gains, but ZEW's Stefan said the deficiencies revealed by combined stress test scenarios could be overcome. Quote, the USA have drawn their own conclusions and implemented comprehensive measures for the recapitalization of the American banking sector as early as 2008, he said. A lack of political will means that this has not happened in Europe, he added. Adding insult to injury, Martin Hellwig, director of the Max Planck Institute for Research on Collective Goods, said stress tests carried out by the European Central Bank revealed that Deutsche Bank would be left in a precarious position in the event of another financial crisis, and warned that Germany's biggest bank, which is Deutsche Bank, is teetering on the edge of crisis, and the only way to protect it against future shocks is to nationalize it. Quick look surprised. I thought the bailouts that happened in America and in the EU put plenty of cash in these banks. It would solve the problem. Everything's good. Then why is there only a way to solve this to nationalize that bank? That's because, I'm going to give you the insider information. Here it is. Deutsche Bank is the largest holder of derivatives. 50 to 60, 70 trillion at one point. Trillion in derivatives. Those are known as weapons of financial mass destruction. And it will cause a chain reaction because they insure each other with credit default swaps, which are essentially insurance contracts. But they're not labeled insurance contracts, and they're not called that because then regulation has to kick in, and they don't want regulation. Banks and regulation do not get along. So they created this fancy term called a credit default swap, that acts exactly as insurance acts, but it's not insurance. And the way it goes is, I just had a massive catastrophic loss today. Derivatives blew up in my face. We're going to go bankrupt immediately if we don't get these losses taken care of. Thank God I have insurance through one of the, AIG, what have you, which actually, believe it or not, the banks, they insure each other against this. So it's a daisy chain. I failed. Give me my money. Okay, how much do you need today? I need about 7 trillion. Oh my, say that, come again? 7 trillion. Billion or trillion? Trillion. Derivatives just blew up my face. Sir, we don't, if it was half a trillion, we don't have that kind of insurance. Well, whatever you got, I guess I'm going to have. So then they fail. The insurance company fails. Everything attached to these derivatives at Deutsche Bank, someone owes somebody some money. Insurance, a daisy chain happens, and the whole thing goes under. So I've had Deutsche Bank on my radar for months and months and months since last year. I've been talking about it, doing videos about it. They just have a new test come out, stress test. It looks okay. Wait a minute, you changed all the criteria. Go back to the one you did in 2014. No, we don't need to do that. Right, because this is a more lenient stress test, which gives the illusion that everything our government officials and experts are telling you on TV is true. There's no problem, nothing to worry about. Life is good, banks are good, government's good. Go back to work and get your get your vaccines, you sheep. Did I say that on an open mic? Did I say that on an open mic? I was just kidding. What's that word? I misspoke. But you said an open mic, just go get your damn vaccines. I misspoke. No, it was a joke. I misspoke. Haven't you ever said a full entire sentence that you didn't mean to say at all? You just misspoke it? Like every word was an accident? Come on, give me a break. Anyways, watch Deutsche Bank. Take care.